We'll get started a little bit. I guess we'll start with our announcement. So we got all that feedback. We sent out that feedback form to the admins. I know some people reached out to Katie directly about like how they want to see this format of these meetings, what days and times work, the content they want to see, that sort of thing. And a lot of people suggested that we do something in person every now and then to just help build the community a little bit more. So we are going to have our first ever like admin ops in-person meetup. It will be, I'll send out a calendar invite to everybody, but it'll be Thursday, April 10th at 10 a.m. over in the TOSA office. And we'll have a little brunch, some snacks, some mimosas, that sort of thing. But I think it'll be a good opportunity for everybody just to actually meet the rest of the admin group face to face. And that way we can maybe start to talk a little bit more in detail about how best to pour into you, what kind of like guest speakers that we're planning to have this year to this group, that sort of thing. So that was our big announcement is that we are going to start having some more in-person opportunities for everybody. And so hopefully everybody can come to TOSA on the 10th.
That'll be cool. Thanks for putting that together.
Yeah, should be fun. And there's food. We all like food.
Bummed I'll have to miss the first one, unfortunately. I'll be out of town.
Oh no. Okay. Well, we'll do them. We're gonna try to do them maybe like once a quarter or once every like 4 months or so, just so we can see each other's face outside of Zoom land, which I think will be great. So if you guys have any more like feedback on what you want to see out of these calls or what works, what's not working for you, please just send it over to Katie or myself, and we'll take a note of it. But we want you guys to have good connections and be successful in your roles, so that's why we're here. Cool. All right. What were we going to talk about today? Google reviews?
Yes, I think that was on the agenda. Google reviews and then SWAT.
Yeah, I'm not sure what Katie had in mind for those, but we can jump into talking about Google reviews. So who gets Google reviews at a high level for their team?
I guess it depends on what you mean by high level. I mean, I
So-
feel like I've got a pretty good system in place.
I was
Okay,
just going to say that same thing.
So tell us about your system, Shelley.
So, so I'm on a team and I haven't been able to make these because mostly Wednesdays in the middle of the day doesn't work for me. But I'm making an effort to try to move my schedule around so that I can be on because I do see such value in community. Kind of the process is we have multiple agents. So we have a like a Google Doc that has a template for an email that the agent sends out to clients. So once we close, so you could do it earlier, but we do it once we close. I send an email that's templated to the agent with the link to the Google, because our agents, they say that they want to send it. They say that they think it's going to make a bigger difference if they're the ones sending the request versus me, who they usually haven't met. So it could go both ways. I've done both. So anyway, so the agent has just a email that says, hey, don't forget, please send this to your client and let me know when it's done. So then they click the link and then there's different, each person has their own template because we put in their Google, which is the one most people do. We do Facebook for the team page. And then the last one is Zillow or Realtor.com. So that's why each agent has their own template, because that last link is dependent on the agent. So from there, the client just clicks on it and then they go ahead and share their reviews. So like we have 41 Google reviews right now that are 5-star. So I feel like that's pretty, that's pretty solid. So it seems to be working pretty well. The only gap might be is the agent actually sending it when I send them the email or not? And we do track it. So we can see how many reviews we get each month.
Do you, are you prompting the client on like what that review should be? Like, are you saying we would love a 5-star review and give some
Mhm.
details about X, Y, and Z? Like, what does that prompt look like?
Yeah, let me pull up the template. But yeah, I think it's like we would love a 5-star review. So we're just trying to put it in their head of what we would like to see, which is of course 5-star review. Let's see, the template testimonial request. All right, so it says hello, insert buyer's name. The subject line is 5-star review, please, fingers crossed, star. If you thought I did a great job with the purchase of your property, and then there's a buyer template and a seller template, I would really, really appreciate you taking a moment and writing a testimonial by clicking one or all 3 of these links below. Feel free to copy and paste your review to make it easy. And I wonder, can I just share this instead of... Got so many windows up. Let's see, which window is this? I can't tell. Yeah, this one. Oh shoot, this is the wrong one. Hold on. I'm sorry, guys. I can't really see my windows because I have 3 windows with like 20 tabs in each one. There it is. And it's so tiny. Okay, so that's what it looks like. Can you see the testimonial request? And then it's just got each
Yes.
link. So the only weird thing is for the Facebook link, you actually need 2 links. I mean, you don't need it, but if you try to open the link from your phone, it won't work because it'll just pull up a browser instead of using the Facebook app. So I had to do a little bit of digging on how to get that correct link to just have it come up. So, but otherwise, yeah, any questions? I'd love to hear what other people are doing. Always room to tweak and improve.
So we just started something that we basically got from Glover, and it's working pretty well. But we, Scott, who owns our team, is actually calling. We have it in command, and Scott will call the buyer or the seller 2 weeks prior to closing. And it's basically a script where he just does like, how are we doing? So he just verbally asks, you know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your agent? If it's 7 to 10, then he goes to a different script. 7 to 10, then we're going to actually send them a link. And we, not that we're bribing them, but they then can get a $50 gift card. We have Amazon, we have a couple of restaurants. And he tells them that in the call. If it's below 7, then the agent has to reach out and figure out what happened. But he tells them in the call because, I mean, it's kind of like I've had so many companies like say, oh, give us a review, and I'm going to be super honest, I just don't do them. But if I was given a $50 gift card to Amazon, I'd probably do it. So it then sends them this link and we give them some examples, and they've been doing it. We've got some pretty good reviews coming through. And then we have a system where another one on our team documents everything. She sends out the gift cards. Everything is tracked. It's working really well. So we'll just see, you know, I don't know. I'll have to order more gift cards. I'm the one that orders them, and seems to be working well for us, but it is quite a bit of money. I mean, $50 per seller or buyer.
Yeah, and I've heard people do like a monthly raffle, so that might be a more affordable way, you know, but if you're needing it more affordable, you're probably not having more than a couple of, you know, reviews, since it's not like 100% of people do the reviews. But I'm wondering, do you guys know like what your percent of reviews compared to transactions are? I'm just wondering if that level of incentive is really taking it up, or if it's like, if a $10 would suffice. I don't know.
Well, we actually just started doing this. It's only been like 3 weeks in, but Glover, because we took a class, Katie and I took a class, they tried different, uh, amounts, and they found that the $50 one was really just the sweet spot that really worked. They had done like 25, they tried 100, and that one worked really well. So that's what we're going with. And hopefully we'll have a little bit more feedback in a couple of months as to how many people do the review. I myself, like I said, if I'm getting $50, I would take the 10 minutes to do it.
Oh yeah,
But
for $10
yeah,
I
for
would.
sure.
I'm like,
Right. Of course, especially Amazon, for sure.
So at Level Up recently, so the way we do it, because anyone that's not been on here before, we do use Brivity, so we have a lot more like things we can do with that. So we are able to send out our review as our agents. But we used to do it after the transaction, and now we have an email that is automated that goes out. I think it's either 24 or 48 hours after their AO, when they're the most excited about everything before we beat them down with home inspection and appraisals and 50 other things that go wrong. And it seems to have been working well. So it's definitely, we've seen a little bit of an uptick since we started doing it. You know, it's only a couple months old, maybe 3-4 months old, but I got a review with Lisa on one
What
of
do
them.
your
So like,
reviews look like if you're sending it after the AO? Like, what are they?
well, so if you're thinking buyers, you've probably not spent 5 minutes with your buyers. You probably spent, months with your buyers. So they already have fallen in love with you as an agent, and they're like, they just talk about how great you are helping them find a home. Same
What
thing with
about
a
for your
seller.
sellers?
Like if it's a seller and you sold the house in a day, then they're just as happy about that. So, and it's mainly buyers that will do it earlier, but they're typically the ones that, you form the more secure relationship with in general because you're spending hours and hours a day with them.
yeah, and it's just a different dynamic because a
Yeah.
seller, like they have like they're always going to be doubting you. And I feel
Yeah.
like buyers are always going to be believing you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. And what does the brevity email kind of look like? Does it have links in it? Is it long? Is it short? Just any kind of.
Well, that's technically Kim's half, but I do get a copy of the email. I don't think I deleted it the last time. We just had an AO. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Can
Yeah,
send it over to you just so you can see what it looks like. I'll send it over to you, Shelly.
oh, super. Thanks. I'm just always curious because usually there's a way to make it simpler and less words. And it's like sometimes seeing other people's really helps.
Yeah, I'll dig it out of my email and I'll
Yeah,
forward it
no
to you.
stress. You don't have to do it now, but yeah, cool. Okay. Hmm.
One of the big things we have been trying to unlock at Level Up is just like whether we do like incentives like Lifetime was talking about. We were not thinking $50. We were thinking that $5 to $10 range. And
Mhm.
like we've thought about doing it at our events as well. Like just having something like a sign set up, like, hey, leave us a Google review, get a gift card or enter a drawing for a gift card or something like that. And those I like that idea because it's like that's almost like shooting fish in a barrel. Like those are already your people, like that
Mhm.
come to your events. And it's like, why wouldn't we try to get some Google reviews out of them when we just took them to a comedy show or a movie or something? So I think sometimes we forget about those like easier ones. It's like, let me send it to you at the transaction. And it's like, well, you came to my last 15 events. You can leave me a 5-star review.
Well, that's a nice way to capture people who haven't closed with you yet, too. Who haven't even had a transaction, like someone who's on your
Exactly.
list. Like,
Yep.
Sorry, I'm jumping in a couple minutes late. What I think is so interesting about the review process is inside of our KW Ops community group. So through KW, we had one of the members in our community, her team, I believe they're out of they're in South Carolina. They work with a guy who helps them to manage their Google account. And the conversation that they had last week was absolutely insane regarding Google. And so that's what I wanted to share with some of the stuff that this guy shared.
It was so amazing.
Yes. I mean, yeah, you were on the info call that they had, and
Mhm.
they were you on with that guy, Joseph Lee?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. So
The Google guru.
yeah, yes. So what was interesting is they were talking about, and this is why I wanted to share this with this group, is because I feel like a lot of people in this group are looking to increase their Google reviews. And what they're finding is that a lot of people have lost a lot of their Google reviews. Has anybody noticed that they've lost any Google reviews? Or they're like, they were at, let's say, like 200 and now they're at like 176 or something like that?
I
Nice.
did actually notice that we had lost a Google review, and as I was trying to deep dive into it, by the time that I, was trying to find it, it had already gotten given back to us.
Okay.
So I used some of the techniques that they were talking as far as like screen capping every single Google review, so that
Yeah.
way we have a tally of who we have. So I'll let you go further.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's really good to know. He said he was like, if he said Google, he's like, if somebody doesn't have an actual Google account, so they don't have a Gmail account, and you just tell them to like open up hey, just create a Gmail account, write this review for us, Google will get rid of it. The account needs to be active. The Google account needs to be active for 120 days, he said. Otherwise, it looks like it could potentially be spam. The other thing he said is that if someone hasn't been in your location, like tracking through their phone, if they haven't actually been in your location and they leave you a review, they'll take it down. So it's just wild to think about. And the reason that I think about that is our ops community, this was like a couple of years ago, we all were looking to increase each other's reviews. And so we went on and reviewed each other. Not necessarily about like the real estate experience, but like the experience with the team. And most of those were taken down. And that's why, is because I haven't been in her area in South Carolina, for example. Like my phone hasn't pinged there or whatever. So I thought that was interesting. He also said that something to be aware of coming into like the end of this year is that he said Google is paying Apple to be on their apps. And he said there was like a huge antitrust case that came out. He said to look it up because he said it was very interesting. I haven't yet, but Apple is basically creating their own search engine. So something to be aware of moving forward is thinking about, okay, we want to collect reviews on Google, but once Apple creates their own search engine, it might be beneficial for you to also create basically like an Apple profile, like you have a Google profile, an Apple profile for your team. So it's not out there yet, but it's just something to be aware of that is coming and is probably going to be another really great place for you to store and have reviews. The same way that you have a Google account, a business account, it's a like exact same idea, which I thought was really interesting to think about, and how they're going to big time compete, where like before they were working together and Google was paying Apple. Now it's going to be like their competitors, which is interesting. The other thing that he mentioned in my notes that I thought was helpful for this group was in thinking about real estate, when people do Google searches for things, if they need something that's immediate, they are like, they give real estate a low priority level when people are doing different Google searches. So if someone is looking for a house and they're like looking for a house in Wisconsin, that's why typically bigger named places like Zillow, like homes.com, etc., show up, and not local real estate teams, because local real estate teams serve a local area, and very not so often are people searching very specific like niche areas in the beginning when they're doing more broad searches. And he said that, when people are looking for like an electrician or something that's more of like an emergency, that's when they recommend places that are close by. But for real estate, they tend to recommend more national platforms, and then let people basically find you through your brand, through the service that you provide. It was very interesting to think about because I've always thought about it really the opposite way of like if somebody was looking that it would show up local real estate teams, and he showed us an example and no local real estate team showed up. It was all like big name players, if you will. So he said that that's why it was really important if you take a look at your organization's Google profile to continue to feed it, meaning like adding photos to it, kind of treating it like it's its own form of social media in a sense. Like it's one thing to have your team photo on your Google business page, but are you continuing to add videos to it, photos to it? And like we're not doing that right now. But based on this conversation, it was very obvious that we need to be doing more of that. So, I mean, is anybody really active on their team's business Google page?
Not currently, but after this whole section, I will be. I have like
Yeah.
a proposal for Brad, like, hey, here's where I think we need to increase and make better and all of that happy stuff. So that way we can get a higher review rate. I mean, just the fact that the whole Gmail thing, like if you don't have a Gmail for 120 days, you're nuked.
Yep.
That's just, that was mind-boggling to me and illuminating as far as why we haven't maybe gotten a lot of the reviews that we've sent out, because we only focus on Google and that sort of things.
No, totally. I mean, this is the area that he was talking about, was like this part over here, that like for us, I mean, I guess it's a picture of our building. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I haven't spent any time on this, so.
I think everybody coming out of that building has the same image. So I think some of it's pulled from Google Maps because we have the same right side, right where, the map, and then we have the same
That's funny.
building.
Oh, and I bet it's probably this part, to your point, Shelley, like
Yeah.
it's this, but even like this part, like this needs to be updated.
Mm-hmm.
So, he basically was saying this part, if you look at this, and when Apple launches their own search platform to do the same thing, like the same thing that you're doing here, do it on that other platform.
Ooh,
The
I saw something.
lawsuit part that he talked about was crazy to hear.
I just wanted to, real quick, before you get into that, I wanted to circle back and say,
Yeah.
when you had your screen up, I saw something interesting that might be worth Googling why yours is showing that way. You had on the
Yeah.
bottom, it showed your Zillow review number and it showed your Facebook business number. So right there.
Oh, yeah.
So I have the Facebook one for mine, but I don't have Zillow linked through there. So there must be a way to do that. So probably putting in like the Zillow
Yeah.
site or something, but that's an easy fix probably.
Right. Yeah. Good point. I mean, I didn't even notice that either. I mean,
Because
add a
that's
photo.
substantial. You have 402.
Right.
I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah. And I think it also could look different if I don't have the login to our team's Google. I don't even know what it's called.
Google
Platform,
Business.
maybe, or Google Business. Yep. It's under Jeremy's name, and Jeremy and Scott they're the ones that get notifications from reviews and things like that. So, for April, it's something that I'm going to be focused on because I feel like you could add other photos here, and I'm sure the actual user side of it probably looks a little bit different than this being more of probably a client facing type of thing potentially. So,
Mhm.
I liked the recommendation as far as like products, putting in like your listing photos that they
yes.
suggested.
Yep. That was it too. Yep. They said that brand and
Well, and
service helps for people to be able to find you, and reviews help for you to be able to find you, obviously, too. And I mean, and obviously this is more just like a salesperson type thing, but a lot of times like people associate realtors as being salespeople because they are salespeople. Whether or not they want to admit that and say that is their own ego thing, but they are salespeople. And when you think about salespeople, immediately people have a guard up. So it's another reason why people will go to these national sites, because they don't have to reach out to anybody anybody on those national sites to look into different things right away. So it's arguably like the path of least resistance until things get more serious and they want to actually see something, then they're reaching out to a salesperson and yada, yada, yada. So that was the other reason why he mentioned when it came to reviews, he was like, he's like, I'm not saying to not push Google because Google is very powerful, but he's like, if people don't have a Google account, I would have options for people. And like if you notice that somebody's using a Yahoo account, probably don't send them to do a review on Google. Maybe you send them to do it on Facebook and Zillow or wherever else that you collect reviews. So something to think about. And I feel like it does put a wrench into automating that because that takes a lot of time. I'm thinking about it like, and we're doing it, some assuming if somebody has a Yahoo account, maybe they do have a Gmail. I don't know. So trying to figure out what's the best way to find out from those clients if they have a Gmail account to know what links to be able to send them potentially. Because right now for us, we only send them a Google link and a Zillow link. And in order for us to send a gift card to them, they have to fill it out in both places. So like that in and of itself is problematic if they don't have that account. There's no way for them to get a gift card. So.
Yeah, you could add a third link and just say 2 of the 3, but maybe you're going to be confusing them. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Or maybe a note in there saying like, if you don't have a Google account, go to these other 2 places or something like that. Potentially. That's a good idea, Shelley. Oh, the other thing I wanted to share along the lines of reviews was, so for us, and here, I'll pull up an example. We were following and are following the way that, if I can get into this account, we are following what Jeff Glover, what they preach and talk about as it relates to their 5-star review process. And what they do in the end of their email is I'll share my screen here so you guys can see this in a second. They provide examples of what reviews could look like. Does anybody do that right now with when they're sending out a review? Do you provide like examples of what other people have said or like what people could say? Is anybody doing anything like that?
No.
No. Is there anything that you're like prompting people by to like help them to be able to like craft the review email?
I give a suggestion like, hey, we'd love to hear specifically like how we navigated offers, what strategies we took in order to get our offer accepted, that sort of thing. But nothing specific as far as like, hey, use this verbatim sort of deal. Just like, hey, give us examples as far as what happened in your transactions that endeared us to you and wanted to give this review.
Yeah, I loved that. And when you shared that last week, that was one of my big takeaways because this is our current email. And I'll show you why it ends up being problematic based on this conversation with this like Google guru guy who was amazing. Like they're not accepting new clients. Like they only work with a small amount of people. But what I loved about listening to him is that he's like, I come from education. He's like, I'm really big on educating people. I don't charge to do stuff like this. Like I want to help more people. I physically can't. So I want to teach to be able to help people that way versus it being like either paying him or working with him as a client or whatever. So I just felt like integrity wise, it seemed like he had a high level of integrity. So we send out this and we say like, here are a few recent reviews written by other clients of ours. And here are examples of what people said about Tina. And they said the problem is that what people will do, our intention with this is so people can see what they could potentially say, because something that holds people back is like, I don't know what to say. So here are some examples. But what they found, we haven't seen this yet, is that people will just copy and paste this and like change a few things around, but not enough of it around to the point where it'll look like a duplicate review and they will block it. So he was like, I wouldn't recommend putting examples of reviews in any communication with people. Instead, to Jessica's point, putting some questions in there to help them discover what it was that they liked about working with Tina. So, I mean, he's going to be back. Like the call was over an hour long. I mean, and I actually had to jump off a little bit early, but so I'll keep bringing more information about that as I hear more, but definitely keep an eye out for that Apple business profile. And if anybody sees it, or they see that they like that's a thing yet. He said he wasn't sure when it was going to be launched, but that that was something to keep an eye out for, and that it was going to be really big for your business to be an early adopter of it. So
Cool.
Yeah, it looks like those were all my notes on there. Anything else review wise, or anything else that people are seeing success with?
In the beginning of the call, we had a couple of us share the process, so I feel like that, I
That's
mean,
what Kathleen said.
pretty
Good.
solid. I know
Good. Okay, awesome.
one other tip or thing that worked well for a while, back when I used to be on my ex-husband's real estate team for Facebook, or I'm sorry, Google posts. We were talking a little bit about that earlier, about how you should get some content there. So a simple thing you could do is every single thing that you post on Facebook or Instagram, during the same time you schedule it, you can go in and it's exactly the same. The downside is you have to, if you're using like MetaSuite or something to schedule your posts, then you have to copy, paste down.
Yeah.
So it's just another place to enter the information, but you don't have to reinvent the wheel necessarily.
Yeah.
You could just take even select posts and put them in there just so you have content and you don't have to like rethink it. It's just adding another step to your process.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. And that's definitely something that we need to be doing. So that's on my list of things when it comes to our Google business page. And then the plan would be to then replicate that to the Apple business page whenever that becomes a thing. So
Yeah, it's just
cool.
one of those things. It's just an extra step.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, why aren't I doing it on this team? It's like, oh, because it's an extra step. But
Totally.
it might be helpful.
Yeah. And I think what's when I think about it, it's also one of those things that if you don't hear feedback that it's working, it's hard to know that the work that you're doing is worth it.
Yeah.
Or and that's why knowing where people are coming from in terms of how they're finding your organization is so important, because it's going to tell you way more about where to continue to put effort and energy into. So
Oh, one other just a fun thing is if you want to get a little bit more visibility to your Google business page, make sure that anytime you're driving to the office, like you put it in your Google Maps. So if you look in your Google Maps and you search for, Keller Williams, Milwaukee Southwest, it'll come up with all the different teams' names underneath. And if you're picking Lifetime, then it's like, oh wow, a lot of people getting directions from Lifetime. And it's like, use your own, just a little, because I've seen, something to keep in mind is you're
Totally.
giving yourself eyeballs every time you're doing it. And it's probably tracking and seeing if you're a manager of that site, it's probably not helping you. But if you're not,
yeah.
I don't know, just throwing that out there.
No, it's a really good point. Every time I go to the TOSA office, I forget what team it is that I pick, but there's a team that I pick and put into my phone. That's really funny. Yeah. But all of you can continue to use Lifetime when you come to this office. I do approve of that. Yeah. Just kidding. That's so funny. So something else, switching gears a little bit. Again, I will bring more information as I hear more on the review front. It's been a hot topic in our KW Ops community, to the point where, like, I think Nicole wants to do another month of talking about it, because there's been so many questions and whatever. So I'll continue to bring more there. The other thing I wanted to talk about and was around, we're at the end of Q1, and I think it's a really great time to take an assessment of like what went well, what didn't go well, where are the opportunities for us to be able to improve, and what things maybe do we need to completely get rid of? What are some things coming up that we need to prepare for? And just carving out some time in your calendar this week, or at the beginning of next week. It doesn't necessarily have to be in March, but like planning intentional time to figure out and reflect on how this quarter went as a business. Because I feel like what I've seen happen with a lot of teams is like they don't do this until they're 6 months in. So now we're 6 months into the business, and it's almost like too much time has passed to really make any major changes potentially around how you're choosing to operate as a business. And then 3 months after that, we're heading into like holiday season. And, again, before you know it, you're back to the beginning of the year. So instead of it being this big, overwhelming thing, take a look at the last 3 months and ask yourself, like, what were our biggest wins in quarter one? Or maybe you're asking yourself this question too. Maybe it's not necessarily a reflection of your team, but it's a reflection of your work in quarter one. What were some of your biggest wins? What lead gen strategies were the most effective for your team? And I'll post this actually in the Facebook group. I came up with a list of questions. And honestly, if you just went to ChatGPT and typed this in, it would also give you a ton of questions that you could ask yourself or your team members as well. Does anybody do anything like this for your business or for yourself quarterly or halfway through the year? Does anybody do this right now?
Not really, but it would be really beneficial.
Yeah. It
To
just kind of
give
allows you to take a
thought.
pause, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Like one of the questions that keeps coming back to me when I think about this, and if you did put it into ChatGPT, tons of questions are going to pull up, and not all of them are applicable for you. And that's okay. Like you don't need to answer every single question, but like taking a look at your business plan and then taking some of these questions and saying, like, of these areas, which ones are the most important for me to assess effectiveness and efficiency, and if we won or not. Like, how do we know that we won at this in quarter one? But the question that keeps coming back to me is, did we maximize our sponsorships and partnerships effectively? And I'm like, man, that's such an area that I think everyone can continue to always grow in. So it's like, how can I maximize our sponsorships and partnerships heading into quarter two? And then, okay, I have an idea. How am I going to do it? Like, what steps am I actually going to take to actually look to implement that or to make that actually happen? What were some of the other questions I had? Maybe even taking a look at like what your competitors are doing differently or more effectively. Like if there's somebody that you see on social media that's just killing it in a specific area and it's something that you desire to do, maybe take a deep dive onto their social media page and do some crazy stalking of what they're doing, and maybe look at like some trends that they're doing or ideas that they have, and maybe look to implement something like that in your business. There's always something to learn from our competitors. And I think too often people would rather like talk trash about their competitors instead of like ripping off and duplicating things that they're doing that you think are working well or that you like. It's like putting your energy into a different place, if you will. So I know that this group, at least in the past, hasn't necessarily big time focused on expenses in terms of like overseeing the budget and the P&L, and that's okay. One thing I would say about if you were to do some sort of SWOT analysis of your organization from quarter one, even if you don't have anything to do with expenses and analyzing them, take a look at, there's definitely things that you're doing every day that you know your team, your rainmaker, your business is paying for, like in some way, shape, or form. Take a look and say, like, are we using this effectively? Do we still need to use this? I always think about the example that Robbie had with was it stamps.com, Robbie? I think it was something like that. So, where they were like, why are we spending money on this? We aren't actually like fully utilizing this entire tool or platform. Let's get rid of it. So think about the impact that you could have on your business if you brought some of these ideas back to your rainmaker to say like, hey, we just spent a bunch of money on, I'm just laughing because I just looked at like this thing of lotion, like little bottles of lotion. Like, do we need that? Is that actually necessary? And it might be, and that's okay. Or maybe you're paying for ChatGPT. I know they have a paid version, and you're like, are we really fully utilizing this? Do we need to continue to pay for this? And bringing some other ways to help to save on expenses for your organization, or find an alternative method that could be less expensive potentially too. So
Totally. Or like, there was this service called BizBox that our team was like really hot to trot about because they sent like a package to your house, or the buyer's house with like boxes that are branded to you. Sounds so cool, right?
that
But
sounds
what
cool.
but the downside is like, oh, they have a shipping charge that they don't show until you actually place the order, and it's variable. So it's like, oh, it's $20 to $24, and all of a sudden that $75 thing a box is like $10, and it's like, we could actually just buy them on Amazon, and yeah, they're not branded, which, oh, bummer, but is that worth 50 more dollars? You know what I'm saying? Like some of the,
Perfect example. Yeah.
like, because if we just do it and don't even look at it, it's like, that's a lot of money for like 10 boxes. I don't know. I'm
Right.
like, what the shit? I'm like,
We
But that's-
recently switched from, because we do birthday cards and home anniversary cards.
yeah.
And instead of home anniversary cards, we switched to postcards because the cost of stamps, I mean, postcards is,
Yeah.
postcard stamps are significantly cheaper than a regular stamp, and with
Mhm.
how many home anniversaries we have, it adds up. So that was something that
that,
Yeah.
like
we recently
That's fine.
changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
postcard stamps are less. Do you have to like ask for them separately at the post office, or you
Yeah, they
Yeah.
say I can
look at that?
they say postcard on them.
And
Oh,
I didn't
they're
know that
also
either.
forever stamps. So yeah, you
Mhm.
should never be putting real stamps on a postcard. But postcard stamps are also forever stamps as well. So you can buy them as much as you'd like and don't have to worry about when USPS raises their price every other week.
Okay, there's
Wow.
my tip that we just walked away a little
Right.
gold nugget.
Right. That's awesome. That's really good to know. And what I love about your story too, Shelley, is really going back to like, if you were to ask yourself, what is the purpose of this? What is the purpose of these boxes? And it's like the purpose of the box is to, create an incredible experience for our buyers and like help, supplement some boxes that maybe they don't have or whatever. So it's like, okay, if that's the purpose of it, then does it really matter if they're branded? Or like, could we buy a sticker to put on top of it? Or, you know what I mean? Or could we take that extra $50 and spend that in a different way that would have a much greater impact than our logo on a box? And it's no shame against a logo on a box. It's just being real about asking yourself, like, what is the purpose of this? And is this actually fulfilling the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing? So like your home anniversary, like postcards are a great option. You know what I mean? The purpose of sending a home anniversary card is to create connection, continue to, like chat with our people, remind them of exciting things, whatever. A postcard still achieves that same thing that we set out to do. So I love that. That's a great idea. Well, good. Well, with the last like 13 minutes that we have, are there any, like, it's kind of an open format. Are there questions? Are there ideas of things that you want help with, something you're struggling with? The floor is open. It's an open mic night, if you will. Shelley, if you're talking to us, you're muted. But if you're talking to your boys on spring break, I understand why you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. I just switched to my phone because I've got to hit the road here.
Yeah, you're okay.
But yes, I don't know. It's great to get to see you guys. Since, like I
That's
said
good.
before, I haven't been able to make the time before, so it's so helpful to be connected to other admins. So I just want to, thank you guys for your ideas today. So that's all I have.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Same with you, Shelley. It's good to see you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, if there are things, I mean, typically, and I know Kathleen mentioned our little like get together that we're going to have in April, which I'm excited about. Well, while we're there in Tosa, I'll have, thank you for all of your feedback of all the information that we collected on ideas and different things to talk about during this. Super helpful. Super helpful to the point where I talked to Nicole Zuber, who heads up the KW Ops community. I told her about because what we have here is really unique, believe it or not. Not that it's like this big shiny thing, but most market centers don't have things like this. And she continues to pick my brain on different things that we're doing locally. I mentioned that Kathleen had the idea of doing like an in-person little event for operations, and Nicole loved it. And I sent her all the feedback actually that people sent here to the community, because she's like, if this is what people want to know about, like we need to serve them. And so the information that I bring from that group like kicks off the first part of this call, and then it's just like an open format. And that really is the purpose of it, is bringing information from that group to this community here. So, but if there are other ideas or things that you're like, I'd love to know, more about checklists, or more about how you're managing your squirrely rainmaker, or like how to be a true director of operations, a high level executive assistant, etc. Like this is the place to be able to talk about all of that. And we have a wide range of experience here to be able to lean on to help answer questions like that. So. Hey,
I'm never here. I'm Shanice. I'm with the Pinnacle Group. But
glad to see you.
Wednesdays usually suck because I'm in the office with everyone else, but I'm by myself today.
Yeah.
But I guess now that I am thinking about things,
Yeah.
I should say we have Liz who just moved to Texas. And she's trying to figure out like if I can be her transaction, I guess, coordinator, administrative assistant, everything over there as well. Like,
Mhm.
is there a certain way she has to go about that, being in Texas now?
That's a really interesting question. I don't know, Kathleen, if you would, I feel like from my understanding, depending on what you're doing, you might need to be licensed in that state. But if like, you know what I mean, depending on because let me backtrack. TC work is a very like wide open statement. Like there are some TCs that handle everything like negotiations, and they take everything up and the agent like isn't involved. And then sometimes it's just specifically paperwork, data entry, putting things into command or whatever CRM, like that kind of thing. So I think, do you feel like you have clarity on like exactly what you would be doing for her?
Yeah, mostly just kind of like putting things into command, kind of, I guess two would be like being able to advertise her properties, like just because like I know I'm
Mhm.
not her, so her being over there, like being able to advertise them for her, like would that cause a problem?
Mhm.
Um, and then I think mostly really just putting things in command and sending emails out for her.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know, Kathleen, do you know specific more about that by any chance?
Yeah, I know it's such an odd, like new thing. So
No, but I know what the concern is, because there are some states where you do have to be licensed in order to do transaction coordinating work. So, I don't know if everybody should be a part. There's a Facebook group called TCs Empowering TCs or something.
Hmm.
And Shanice, I just sent you an invite to it, but I'm going to post on there that question. This is if you do a lot of TC work, this group will 1,000% just help you. I'll throw it in the comments here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Any and every resource that you might need as it relates to being a TC or anything in your ops world. It's not KW specific, which I think sometimes can be really nice, because
Yeah.
you might learn about systems that we don't necessarily know about, that could help you in your roles. So I just threw that in the chat for everybody. I highly recommend you join that group. Wealth of knowledge in there in regards to anything TC related, systems, all of that. So
Yeah, that's
um,
awesome.
I'll post that question there, because Texas is one of those weird states, especially when it comes to this stuff. So we'll find out.
okay.
Because the other thing, even if you aren't doing anything that's like uh necessarily like legal, let's say, right? Like in terms of like negotiating and things like that. I know that some of like the contracts are different, or they have different things that they require for their properties or things like that. So it'd also just be like learning whatever that is for them.
Yeah.
But in terms of advertising the property, I mean, I have access to several of the people on our team, like their Facebook account, their Instagram account, where I would go in and I would manage that for them.
Yeah, and that's usually what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I didn't think it was an issue. She was more kind of concerned if she was allowed. I think it was more putting our like Pinnacle Group logo, because I don't know if it's like officially over in Texas yet, or if it's just her
Yeah,
individually. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
more specifics regarding how you brand yourself in Texas. Like if you're going to use a logo like that, I think you actually have to register it as like your trademark with the DS, like with their version of the DSPS. Actually, Dana knows a lot of that,
Okay.
so I would maybe just go have a conversation with her about it. Which,
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
Liz
Those
could
are
probably call her too.
Those are
Yeah.
great questions though, seriously, because I could see, I could definitely see that happening just with people moving and whatever. And it's like, if they can plug right into the systems that you already have, they know how you work. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think Dana would be a really great resource for that though.
Okay.
And good to know. I mean, that's also good information to know if if we don't have referral partners in that area in Texas, like this is a great resource too, for us to be able to send her business to. So. Nice, good question. I'm curious what you find out too. Next time I see you, I want to ask you about that because I'm curious, like what you find out about it. Because our team is actually in a similar-ish situation. Zacharias Hoy has his Florida license. He's getting his Florida license. He's going to be having like working through a brokerage, a KW brokerage in Florida. And like we've also tried to figure out like can we still support him up here with command stuff, or like does it need to be through the Florida one? We don't know yet. So it's definitely a question on our end too. So
Yeah, that's kind of how we like, she's dual licensed, so she can do stuff here still. And so I
yep.
can do all the like Wisconsin things, but it's like now that she's in Texas, she's like, I don't want to pay an extra person just to do the stuff I already know you're capable of.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think Dana will be a great resource for you though, for sure. Yeah.
And I'll definitely, whatever I find out, I'll bring it back.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That's great. That's perfect. Well, good. Well, if there isn't anything else, I mean, thanks for being here today. Sorry I was a few minutes late. I had a coaching call run a little bit over, but thanks for sharing and being here. It's awesome. I mean, really what Nicole said when she mentioned, I told this to Kathleen too, that the ops community that we have here, it's really cool in the sense that people get together, people share, they're very willing to share tools and resources that they have and talk about it. Like most market centers don't have that. They don't organize it. They don't have anything like that. So it's just a good reminder that it's pretty cool that we have each other to be able to lean into. So great. Well, have a great rest of March, and we'll see everybody in April at the TOSA office for our ops